Mostly these come from the Vedic siddhis, which have spent a long time developing, and includes powers such as healing, manifestation of more abundance in one's life, removal of various obstacles in one's life, and in a certain level of clairvoyance is needed to diagnose, to understand the root cause of people's problems. The way I put these together in healing is to, when a person comes to any particular problem, try and link it together with the physical condition, the life situation where they're blocked, as well as what emotional blocks are carrying, and to work on all that together. So the body is healed as we release emotional blocks, and that's often linked with the life situations that need to change to make them happier. I'd say the big number one would be healing, because obviously people come with various problems, both emotional and physical, and relieving their problems obviously is what ends their suffering, so they can have a happy life. So that's definitely the number one. Secondly, well, the powers of magic, particularly through voodoo, can help manifest things they want in their life. When people have something they lack in their life, such as money or love, those things will help put it right. Well, the magic can cover many things. I'd say the first of those then is the abundance, and second would be the love. Well, shamanism is a form of magic in itself, because it's just a very natural form. It's about being out in nature, in the wild, communing with the spirits of nature, the various beings that one meets when one's alone in the wilderness, which are the teachers which help us see beyond the illusion, to embrace a much bigger reality. And so that has been my place where I'm coming from healing, because the spirits then awaken me to a deep perception of a person's problems. And then by working with the spirits of nature and the various aspects of the spirit world to find solutions. So the healing very much involves sort of shamanic and magical techniques. With much of it being Vedic as well, from the Vedic tradition, using various mantras and chants which have done sadhanas of to give them power, helps make the changes within a person. The biggest obstacle is in their belief system, usually. People are not brought up to believe in the possibilities that they could have. People come with limited thinking that what they've got is all there is, that problems will never end. And they have difficulty believing that they can change. Well, that changes very quickly, because once you start making some change, it's already far more than it would have expected, and then they become more open to possibilities. But this big block there is that people in general have a very low expectation. There are many stages of this. It all begins by clearing one's emotional body. To do that, one has to bring out all the suppressions. When we have any kind of negative emotions, rather than push them inside, we need to welcome them, so they come out once they've been felt and expressed. They're clear. And as we move through various different emotions, we come to a much clearer space. Generally, we start from the lowest vibrations first, so it means you're going through the numbness, unconsciousness from anesthesia and so on. Then you go through all the layers of apathy, where your disbelief comes in. Then to the grief, the fear, anger and pain. Then finally reach this pure unconditional love and enthusiasm. When you've gone through the emotional layers, you get this pure state of love, where everything becomes possible. So you find that as you go through those different emotions, there are different levels of belief achieved with these emotions. For instance, when you're in apathy, there's always a feeling that you'll never get anywhere, that you'll fail, nothing's going to work. When you're in grief, you always think the world's out to get you, somebody's going to hurt you. Same within fear, you think something's going to go wrong. When you're angry, you're always expecting opposition, enemies, and things to fight. So each emotion has certain beliefs with it. So as you work through the emotional scale and clear those beliefs, you're clearing all the blockages to creating the kind of miracles we want. Very much. I mean, the ultimate healing course is the most intense way of doing it, because people are working every day, working through these layers. So you have the full 2 weeks of clearing out. In that time, they'll release lifetimes of blockages. Otherwise, in individual sessions, we do it more gradually. The first stage is to be alone in nature. You see, it's only the human world that keeps us locked into the same illusions, because they're constantly being reinforced. When you step out from society and go into the wild and just be in nature for a while, that conditioning starts to fall away. Just by observing, watching nature, sitting and listening, you find that the trees, the plants all have messages for you that begin to communicate, and gradually the kind of natural perceptions open again. And also deep meditation. The deeper you go in meditation, the more you relax, the more the mind can open. You don't always know that there's an entity beyond the problem until it surfaces. The problem with entities, they tend to exaggerate problems you already have. We have our own beliefs and limiting laws and so on, and repeated patterns of habits we have going on, and quite often an entity becomes attached to those, which exaggerates it. You can suspect an entity is there when the problem gets far more worse than being explained by your own thoughts. That problem keeps going wrong no matter how much you try and change your thinking. Or you might try and change one belief and something tries to push it back in place again. And you know there's something deeper. And it sometimes feels that there is a hostile force following around, sabotaging everything you do. When you have that going on in life, quite often there is a negative entity to release. Yes, I use a lot of the kind of Vedic magic to do that. I tune into the person. I use various stotrams and mantras and channel sacred energy, and those entities can be removed. The first thing is surrender. You can't let the co-creators help you if you put yourself in the way. People are too full of their own ideas, become rigid in their thinking, won't let anything else change that. If they think they know how it's going to work, they're not letting another force to override their limitations. So when one lets something in, one first has a very clear intention, but then must have a total surrender to let it in. So I say the depth of surrender, which requires releasing one's ego, is the first step. Secondly, it's about building the connections just through patience and practice. As you spend time meditating with any kind of spiritual being, you build a connection. Doesn't matter what kind of spiritual being it is, if you spend time with it, that connection grows clearer and clearer and clearer. So it is a case of discipline and time and patience. After that, it's about purifying oneself. You have to get rid of the negative beliefs that are in the way, which are not only from your own conditioning, but can be passed on the family, you can be stored in the genes. So it's important to do the self-healing, do the clearing work on ourselves to let in greater powers. Partly, but it's also partly they're attached to struggle itself. We have various beliefs in this world. People think that you have to struggle to get anywhere. And if you consider that we are creators, that's all down to belief. Because we believe that we have to struggle, we do. It can be hard to change that belief when you've had a lifetime of it, and everything you've done has always been a struggle. But as we release those past traumas and emotions and open to an easier flow, the struggle vanishes. It's simply down to belief. Healing, well, there's many examples of that, but I think what was most impressive from my point of view when I was doing it is when the kundalini patient arrived to such a heat that it actually melted the vinyl of my treatment bench. When that happens, this heat is real. There's actually a real heat coming off the body. It's not damaging the body, it's regenerating it, but it's hot enough to burn everything around them. Oh yes, we do when we do the summer courses. Everybody will find the heat starting to rise from the first day, and it gets hotter during the week. Safely though, obviously kundalini is a dangerous thing to mess with if it's forced to rise too soon. We rise in certain stages as it purifies the body and heals it. Yes, it can be extremely dangerous if it's forced to rise before it's ready. The whole path of kundalini yoga in the East had various stages which people in the West try and miss out because they're too quick to want to get straight to the good stuff. You would have to go through the disciplines, one has to have the right morality before even they teach you the basic asanas, the positions. You go through the basic hatha yoga, you go through the breathing, the various stages of purification before you even give them the kundalini yoga. Now, the way we work in our courses works through this much faster, but there's still important stages, principles to understand to allow the kundalini to rise safely. The way it works is not going to stimulate, it's not going to force it to rise unnaturally. It always rises to the level it's needed at the time to produce a particular transformation. That transformation completes before we then try and move on to another layer. It's not trying to force everything too soon. When it rises too fast, As I've seen from burning vinyl from a treatment bench, it is very hot. If the person is not prepared, it can do damage. Nutritional preparation is also important. If a person's nutrition is poor, the body can't handle these changes. So that's part of it too, good nutrition before you even start. And also being prepared to actually release old emotions and change one's thinking. If you understand the process and are willing to go with it consciously, then it becomes safe. Well, quite often it means taking supplements because the food isn't sufficient. We eat all fresh organic food as much as possible, but even then you cannot be sure to have enough, so we do take a good multi-mineral as well, just to make sure the body's got enough of everything it needs to change. Consider it's a whole chemical process too. For the body to change, it needs those raw materials. If it hasn't got the right minerals and enzymes, then that change can't complete. It happens naturally during the healing. We start holding points which then trigger various releases of emotions and blocks in the body, and as the energy gets moving, it gets very hot. It starts off in just a local area where the body's healing, but as the body gets more purified, it'll rise right up the spine and spread to the whole body. That comes gradually. It can be different time for each person according to how ready they are, but it'll burn in some area of the body that's being healed. The important thing here is embracing complexity. This is why so many other spiritual races are trying to interact with us, and because their thinking is so different from ours, that we interact with them, we have to expand in our complexity and embrace a lot more. See, in evolution, it doesn't always go upwards. When you need to survive and you change to a new form, it can either be more primitive or more complex. And this can happen when there's a big crisis going on. It happens with all species when they're competing for survival. When any species becomes too efficient, it'll destroy its environment and therefore itself, then has to change to a new form. If it doesn't become more complex, it becomes more primitive. Now we're at a crisis point in our world at the moment and getting worse. To change anything, if we wanted to actually move upwards to a more miraculous kind of reality where everything changes and we create the miracle rather than a disaster, we have to become complex, which means we have to embrace all this new information that's trying to come in and change us, which can mean talking to the fairies and whatever other spiritual races are coming in. Just by interacting with them, we see whole new ways of thinking, whole new ways of perception, and that expands us. It's believed that the first humans, before they were on this planet, came from Sirius. May not the same as us, but kind of human form, so they can say it's human-like. And so they were there long before there was life on Earth. So they evolved faster than us, and gradually those planets that were around the star have been absorbed into the sun, don't exist. Those beings have evolved to a more spiritual state. They then came to the Earth and interacted with humanity and affected its evolution. They brought the magic in to make us evolve and become more expansive, rather than so primitive and warlike. Most of these are based on Javanese magic, which I've done a lot of training in, and they work in a similar way to the way people pass on Reiki attunements. You tune somebody, give them the energy, and suddenly they can do it. Within the magic, that's very useful because some of these powers would take many, many years to develop on your own. Yeah, there's so many of these attunements now that when you do them all, you basically save several lifetimes of work. Various powers are passed on this way. The first one I always start people on is what we call Tenagadalum, simply means inner power. These are mainly used for invulnerability. With this one, it can take knife strikes and things, nothing harms you, but particularly it's good for more psychic protection, so people become immune to any kind of psychic attacks, negative entities, curses, and so on. So it gets rid of all the bad luck in their life. Then we have the Kodam attunements, which puts people in touch with the guardian spirits. There's the attunements for Chandali, which awaken the kundalini, so it can so the spiritual growth is greatly accelerated, and they can awaken their abilities much faster. Then there are various other magical attunements. There's a basic system of 10 magic attunements in Japanese magic, which gradually increase your proficiency with each one, and there are more spells you learn at each level. Well, quite often what I'm doing is something they've never seen before, so there'll always be something new. And what they really strike them is how fast they change. That problems they thought would take years to overcome go in one go. First thing is to email me. it can be really hard to reach me by phone sometimes because I'm working with people and the phone's ringing and I'm not answering. And quite often, time I get to answer the phone in the evening, trying to call them all back, they're not there either, and it's like I might forget to ring them all back, and a lot of messages get missed this way. If people email me at first, I'll get back when I'm free, and that way we can set up a communication. I've got plans to travel. This year I'm going to be going to Holland to do a summer course as well as in this country. Also, I'll be wanting to go to Java at some point again to further my training there. I know some really powerful sorcerers there who train me.